right, New York, you know, that time of the week, all the Empire State politics you need to know. We do it in just a few New York minutes. And representing the Democrats, our friend Richard Brodsky, former assemblyman, senior fellow at Demos, professor at NYU, and now officially stuck in the media. And representing the Republicans, John Cahill, former chief of staff to Governor Pataki, and former commissioner of New York State's Department of Environmental Conservation. And I don't throw you into that pit of hell in the media yet. Okay, let's first talk about the governor. And what he recently unveiled as it is his women's agenda, including measures to strengthen abortion laws and ensure equal pay. First off, good or bad? Well,
there are a lot of, listen, I think there's a 10-point plan. There's a lot of issues in there. Sexual harassment in the workplace. Certainly, we've seen that first, front and center in Albany. So yeah, there's a lot of good pieces to the legislation. But on the issue of the abortion rights, I think that's where he's going to run into a real problem. I think it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to get the Republicans to get on board with that piece. I think the Republicans have taken an awful lot of flack in their home base on the particularly the gun issue. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see whether the governor will allow the legislation to go forward without that piece, or if he's going to really use it as a political hammer on the Republicans to advance.
So you think it's DOA in the Senate?
What's that?
You think it's DOA in the Senate?
You know, it's going to be interesting in the Senate because you have who's running the Senate right now. So I wouldn't say it's definitely DOA, but it's going to be, I think the Republicans, Skelos, the leader, is going to fight hard preventing that to get to the floor because it'll be a difficult vote for
We don't have to worry about what the governor will do politically on this to hurt the Republicans. No. They're fully in charge of that dynamic and walking around, one false move and I pull the trigger. Look, first of all, recognize that there are principled people who oppose abortion rights, and I don't offer any criticism of that. I'm a supporter. The people of New York are supporters. It's immensely popular. And for the Republican Party to return, the New York Republican Party to return to the right wing of this is going to be political disaster.
New York, you know, has probably the most progressive abortion laws in the state. I don't think there's been a cry out there that we need more abortions. What we need is more jobs and more economic development. And that's, I think, where the Republicans are going to put their focus on.
That will get us politically, the Republican Party continue to diminish in size and scope.
All right, let's talk about everybody's favorite politician in New York nowadays, Anthony Weiner. And we all remember the contrite, polite, well-mannered, apologetic Anthony Weiner. We remember that nice, I think, well-produced opening spot that he did. Well, that was then and this is now. Lately, we've seen reports here that read like old-school Weiner. Him telling reporters at a mayoral forum that they looked too bored, and he essentially was bored himself at the event. He also told people, quote, he's going to win here, and he responded and jumped it a little ugly with a voter who complained about the prospect of a mayor who had to go apologizing all the time for his past sexual misdeeds, or whatever you want to call it. Isn't, to me at least, I think he's a little bit quick here to be getting flip. I think people like an alternative in this. Mm-hmm. He's out of the political system, if you will, because of his own actions. But all of a sudden, I think the contrition went away a little too quick. What do you think?
Well, I think this is who Weiner is. I mean, he's a hard-nosed, hard-knuckle politician. That's who he was before he stepped away from politics, and that's what he is when he's getting back in. So you either like Anthony Weiner or you don't. I think with respect to the Democrats, I don't think he's going to be the mayoral nominee for the Democrats. I think as a Republican supporter of Joe Lhota, we frankly hope that he is. But he will make the race interesting. He'll challenge the other candidates in the race. He's going to hurt Christine Quinn's chances and solidify Bill Thompson as the front runner. Sooner or later, Bill Thompson will emerge as the front runner in this race.
That's a Republican pipe dream if I ever heard it. Look, that he is surfacing with sharp edges is... It's who he is, and I think part of...
No, the sharp edges I get, Richard, but about the wise guy routine. It's like,
okay, sharp edges, wise guy. That's who he is. Sooner or later, he is going to reemerge with his strengths and his weaknesses. He might as well reemerge with those strengths and weaknesses early. If he can get by the public distaste for those behaviors, he will be judged, good or bad, for a whole series of things, including his personality.
But the problem that he has, which you just said, it reinforces what he did and who he is. You're right, because this is who Anthony Weiner is, right? He's a hard-knuckled guy, abrasive. Then has he really changed? Has he really found remorse in what he did in the past? That's, I think, is going to be a problem for him.
Those misdeeds and his personality with the press are not the same thing. You're going to try to make it the same thing because it's your way of saying, I won't talk about the misdeeds, but you know, look at the way he's behaving.
Richard, quickly, handicap the field today as we're getting near mid-June. It looks like there's going to be a runoff
Three
here.
serious candidates: Quinn, Thompson, Weiner. Weiner has the ability to emerge and the ability
But
to
if you're
fall behind.
handicapping the field, does it look like Thompson, given the demo, got the best
Trifecta:
shot?
Quinn, Thompson, Weiner.
All right, let me go to the other side here. Joe Loda.
Yeah.
Give me a pathway with all the registration realities, Democrat to Republican, that a Giuliani Republican, which is how he's branding himself, could win in this climate.
Well, I think they're going to find the Democratic candidates unacceptable. I think that people are going to realize that the city has moved forward dramatically over the last 20 years between Giuliani and Bloomberg, where they tough, hard-nosed leader, an executive, actually making decisions. The city is not ready to go back to have it run by political bosses and union bosses.
There's a
And there's an
Republican
issue-
primary you haven't inherited yet.
We're gonna win
You have John Catsimatidis, supported by former Governor Pataki, Adolfo Carrion, who's got the Independence
He's not in
Party
the
line.
primary.
Yes, he is.
No, he won't be in the Republican primary.
I believe he will.
No, he will not get a Wilson Pakula. That's not happening.
Apparently, the bosses are alive and well.
he's not.
Thank
He's
you for
never been a
informing
Republican.
us
He's not getting
what
one.
the
He's a wonderful guy,
Republican
but he's not
Party's
gonna get a
gonna do.
Republican.
Let's not rush to Joe Loda. Joe Loda has plenty of vulnerabilities. He mishandled Hurricane Sandy. He is
Oh, he
an
misheard. I
O-line-
mean, come on. There is bipartisan support
Did
for
you
the way that
see?
Joe Loda
Did
handled
you see
the NTA
the
on
pictures
Sandy.
of the flooding into the Battery Tunnel? A block away, Goldman Sachs had sandbagged to 16 feet. The light stayed on.
Okay,
Where were
wait,
the
wait.
sandbags at the
I
Brooklyn
will
Battery
give you.
Tunnel?
I will give you from the media, which you like to be sometimes in and out of. But from the media perspective, if Loda's going to get banged, it wasn't on the handling of Hurricane Sandy. It's on the toll hikes keep going up and up and up,
Well,
and that's
yes,
part of
the
the
toll
budget.
hikes
because
weren't
the
his-
funding from Albany keeps on going down and down and down.
John stumbled on the
And
truth.
because-
John, no, just quiet. You're doing very well. The toll hikes are not Loda's fault. The bungling of Sandy is.
He
It's
didn't
early in
bungle
the
Sandy.
campaign.
I mean, it was well recognized.
We don't know
that
who
he
the
was-
Republican
it was-
candidate's going
Let's
to be.
stay with dollars and cents for a second, and that is, there's this general perception that, okay, 08 was bad, it took us a long time, but better times are ahead. And there's logic to that. But you guys both know there's 62 counties in New York State. And there are cities and counties in this state, when you go north of where our studios are, that are real trouble here. We're seeing in different parts of the country, cities declaring bankruptcies. I'm getting from folks here that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. For especially some of the manufacturing communities that still have not seen any kind of a rebound. Put a face here, and maybe you guys agree on this one,
I think,
just how tough certain places of this state are right now.
I mean, you don't have to go that far north. In my hometown of Yonkers, which Richard represented, we're facing a real financial crisis in Yonkers. And that is a story with all these old manufacturing bases. You have a confluence of a depleting tax base with manufacturing moving out, additional costs on municipalities from labor costs, pension costs, a cap from Albany, but no mandate relief. We don't really have an economic plan to help these cities right now. He doesn't like hydrofracking. Casino gambling, in my opinion, is not the answer. We need to come up with a real economic plan strategy to help these cities because they really are in the risk of
The cities are
falling off.
not going to rebound when the economy rebounds because their tax base are property taxes. Yonkers had Otis, Syracuse had Carrier. They're gone. And they're facing structural gaps. Some of it is their own making, and some of it can be imputed to bad decisions by the locals. Some of it's structural. The governor has to step in, begin a conversation. The mayor of Syracuse, Stephanie Weiner, has led that effort. Stuff is going to happen either by crisis or, with any luck,
I mean, you can
by
just look at
conversation.
California and see some of these cities already filing for bankruptcy, and New York is facing that, I think, relatively imminently.
Again, twice. John's right. Let's leave this on a happy note.
3 times I got to leave.
There we go.
Sleep well tonight.
There we go.
So blessed by King Richard. All right, guys, thank you very much, as always. Next week, we'll have another installment, New York, New York. Till then.